We are live. Gonna give it a few minutes.
Yep. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day in Marietta this afternoon.
Yes, it is.
Nice little breeze. Wonderful fumes from the truck right behind me.
There we go.
Woo!
Show you where we are. We're gonna do a little panorama here if I don't trip over myself as I do. Here's the Marietta Cobb Museum of Art. And we're standing on the corner. Surrounded by these, there's the Barnes Law Group, which is part of the old Marietta Methodist Church. Yeah, I was thinking of the official name, First United Methodist.
Yeah, First United.
Yeah. And so we're looking behind Krista. Here is Atlanta Street.
Yep.
Excuse me. And then where the Mayfield truck is Anderson.
Yep.
So that kind of gives you our crossroads here.
Kind of in the same spot. If you guys watched last week, we're not far away from where we were last week for the sit-ins and protests and strikes video that we did last week. Once again, my name is Krista McKay. I'm the collections manager at the Marietta Museum of History. My History Loves Company partner in crime, Amy Reed, who will be celebrating her 10th anniversary of 30th
Why
birthday.
are you saying that? Why? You're going to edit this out.
On Sunday. Nope. Not going to say it. Not going to edit nothing.
Okay. All right, fine.
So
fine.
wish this lovely young lady a happy birthday for me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
she deserves all the happy birthdays. Also, if there's anybody on here that wants to give me a volume check, I'm standing pretty close, but let me know if
We know there's a lot of traffic, so we're going to try to work around that. We may move in a minute, but we wanted to start in this area because of what we're talking about. Wow, that's loud. Woo! Gotta love those bikers. Let's give it a minute. Hey, come on, give me a little dance.
That's it. That's all you get.
Tiffany Fannin said, we are good.
Thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany, I saw your post. Did you visit yesterday? Because I wasn't in the office, but I saw you gave us props.
Somehow I missed you too. Sorry about that.
But thank you for giving us a shout out saying that we've done good work. Because we go through it every day, so we don't really know what if it works for the general public. Okay, so last week I kind of teased about what we were talking about today, and it is the early history of the Syrian community here in Marietta. Amy and I both were like, Syrian community? What? There was a Syrian community? Yes, and guess what? I have a whole new folder of all this information. So just kind of a little bit of world history. We're going to go way out and then we'll come back in. So in Syria, pre-World War I, you saw a lot of people fleeing the country because they were Christians in an area where there were a lot of Ottoman Turks coming in and a lot of religious persecution. So you see this kind of influx of Syrian immigrants from around 1880 to about 1914. Marietta, you see the Syrian community coming in right during World War I and just after. So we do actually have paperwork for men in Marietta, and I think it's going to be hard to read because of the way they print it out. But if you guys ever go on Ancestry and you're trying to find stuff about family members who might have served during World War I, you might see these kind of registration cards. Let me see where
Hold on. I don't know how the lighting is.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, there's a
So
registration
this
card.
is Joseph Mansour. You might have heard the Mansour Center down on Roswell Street. I don't know if it's related. We haven't kind of gone that far. But South Waddell Street. Waddell Street actually kind of cuts across here.
Back here.
Not the road that you see going, but it kind of cuts where the D building is in front of it and comes across.
Okay.
So he was living on Waddell Street of Syrian descent, and then we have a few others. Hold on, let me get to this next one. I did put my papers in order, and since I didn't hand it to Amy, they will stay in order.
They will stay organized.
But this one especially, this is Charles Deraney, and it's Anderson Street.
Oh wait, I'm supposed to be doing
not
this.
paying
Jesus,
attention once again.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, move your shadows. Okay.
So Charles Deraney. Deraney is really the family I wanted to talk about the majority of the time.
Thanks, Anna.
Oh my gosh. It's a little toasty in the sun, everybody. I'm just going to warn you right now. So the Deraneys actually lived here somewhere on Anderson Street, which is the street that I've got right behind me.
Right
I don't
here.
know where.
There are no longer any dwellings that we can see on Anderson Street,
No.
so we don't know where they were.
So Delaney comes in, and he's got his brothers, and he's got sisters too. And this whole family starts a business here in Marietta, and they first purchase a building in 1919 on the south side of the square, and it is the Freyer Building, which I have a picture of too.
Yay.
So the Freyer Building is actually this one right here. Sorry, my shadow. Kind of where not Tycoon. I'm sorry, Tsunami is.
Yeah.
That would be that building.
Okay.
So their first business was on the south side of the square, kind of like a dry goods mercantile, and they purchased that building for around $26,000. I didn't do the inflation calculator, but that's a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And they stayed in that building for a little while. Here's kind of their closeout sale. So 46 South Park Square. There's their ad. Big Lot ladies shoes, 98 cents a pair.
What?
I know. Men's work shirts, 98 cents a pair. Ladies hats, 19 cents each.
Wait.
I know.
That's what it says.
I
Wait.
know. Closing sale. And they end up moving over to the west side of the square, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So this Syrian community that's here is about 50 families. And what I thought was really interesting was this article in 1920 of the Syrian princess to speak here on Sunday and Monday.
Ooh.
Imbued with the atmosphere of the East, feeling the ideals and traditions and tragedies as only a native, and knowing like an open book the history of her Syrian past and present. Princess Rami Halder, member of the ancient Syrian royalty, comes to Marietta Sunday morning and Monday night to tell something of that land where Christianity had its birth.
Cool.
Princess Rami will speak at the First Baptist Church on Sunday morning, choosing as her subject glimpses of Palestine, painting a graphic picture of ancient and modern Syria. And then she would speak again that Monday night on Naaman the leper, based on an old Bible story, a vivid portrayal of the healing of a great Syrian captain and the part played by the Hebrew maid in bringing this about. So, kind of like when we do our programs, there were programs going on bringing in different cultures and things, and this one was at specifically at the Baptist Church.
Very progressive of them, I think.
I think so. You can't really see her picture, I'm sorry, it's a newspaper thing, but she would come in costume and talk all about her culture. But I was just like, this is fascinating. Who would have known? So the Durrani family and a few other families, you're probably like, well, why aren't they here now? Well, in 1922, and Amy could kind of fill in the gaps on this story a little bit, A.H. Gilbert had to sell an apartment building here on Atlanta Street. We're not sure exactly where the Gilbert apartments were. It's not the brick one that still exists. I double-checked that based off the date. But it was somewhere on Atlanta Street, and the Gilbert apartments had to go up for sale because...
I'll step up here. So, Gilbert, A.H. Gilbert, what'd you say his name? First name was?
Albin.
Albin, yes, Albin. Albin was a VP of the Marietta First National Bank, I think. No. Banking, Savings, and Trust.
Yeah, Savings and
It was
Trust.
a bank in town. He was a vice president of this bank, and he got into some financial trouble at home, and he was able to convince somehow his cashier, who happened to be at the time Moultrie Sessions, to somehow aid him in extortion and take some money from the bank to pay his debts. He got caught, and so, of course, arrested. He ended up getting 6 to 10,
I think.
6 to 10,
10,
yeah,
something
6
like
to
that.
10 in the state prison. And he went down to the state prison, and he didn't work the chain gang, though. They used his skill set, and he was working the books down at the prison for them. But we know that because two things. One, so that happened around 1921. By 1922, they are selling all of his assets on the courthouse square, including his apartment building. And then a little bit later on, we found an article that talks about him I think it was 24. He's petitioning to be paroled and basically be able to come back home to take care of his wife and his 5 children who have hardship now. because of his stupid decisions, and he's a good person. And it's interesting because he's got, they've got this petition signed by all these important people in town. Did you grab that?
I did.
article?
It's this paragraph right here that you want to read, his quote. Because
Okay.
I think it was pretty funny.
Yeah. So he's really sorry that he got caught.
Yeah.
He says in his application, I was anxious to provide for the future of my wife and 5 children, he said. So I speculated, at first with my own money, and lost. In an effort to recoup these losses, I speculated again and lost. Finally, I became desperate and used the bank's money and lost. It was brought out in the petition that Gilbert was not addicted to drink or other immoral habits, God forbid, and that his downfall was attributed solely to market speculation. So, Judge Newt Morris, who you may recognize that name, we've mentioned in a couple of stories, and most notably, he was involved in the Leo Frank lynching. And so this was, Leo Frank was, of course, 1915. And so this is about 9 years later. At this point, Newt has using that platform of Leo Frank to rise in politics and stature, and he is a judge with a lot of power. And he presented the petition to the commission and made a plea for clemency for Gilbert, declaring that the former banker had surrendered everything he possessed, which we do have evidence of, including his apartment building, and he wants to make complete restitution, leaving his family in need of his service. His, I can't read that. They need his support. Anyways.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there's a long list of people. There's Gordon Gann, another
Conspirator
for Leo Frank. There's Lindley Camp, E.P. Dobbs, J.G. Roberts, D. Collins, Swanson, another Dobbs, which there were some Dobbs involved in, and Leo Frank. There's a whole list of them here. All the who's who of Marietta was basically reaching out to try to petition for one of their friends who made a wrong decision. So that's pretty much it. And they sold all the property at the courthouse steps. So that's where we leave you.
Well, so when they were going to sell the property, this Gilbert Apartments property in 1922, kind of June, there had been rumors going around that the Syrian community was going to buy this apartment complex. So on June 9th, the Syrian colony, unusually numerous in this city, is intensely stirred as a result of mysterious notes received by various merchants of their clan, warning them to sell their property and leave the city within 6 months. The notes, typewritten, stated that unless the warning was heeded, quote, the fire department would be given additional employment and probably the undertakers.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, Truck, for giving me that moment to pause. A leader in the colony, it was stated today, has declared that the Syrians will sell and move away. There has been an increasing sentiment against the Syrians for several months. The origin of the notes remain a mystery, but resentment had been expressed several times by leading citizens who said they would like to see the Syrians move out, and it was declared in reports. And then it says it had been rumored the Syrians were planning to buy the Gilbert Apartments in the best resident section of Marietta with the purpose of making that the headquarters for the colony. Amy and I kind of disagree on what the best section residence. I don't know if Atlanta Street at that point. I don't know.
At that point, it might have been.
It might have been.
Maybe nobody wants to live here now, but if you look down the street here, I mean, you had this. Yeah. Okay, so at the time, this building was the post office. So you're near your post office.
You didn't have the loop. You didn't have,
you didn't have a lot of these. I don't think that gas station was there. I could be wrong, but I don't think the gas station. It might have come in a little bit later. Yeah, probably. And
but you would have also had City Hall here at that point too, where the brick building is. You would have had City Hall.
Yeah. So right there, this building. Where's my finger? I can never do this right. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
That's we decided that was the old fire department, and then around in here was the City Hall building. So you've got some municipal areas as you look down the street there. There are a few more. Do you want to walk down to that apartment building just to show what a 1925 apartment building looked like, or we'll wait?
We'll wait.
Okay.
If we get stuck with all that traffic,
okay,
we can post a picture of it. If you guys, we can do that.
Okay.
So this is June of 1922, where these mysterious notes start coming in. And it's like 6 months, you got to get out. We want you gone. Well, in December 28th, 1922, house on Atlanta Street dynamited Wednesday night. An unknown person places explosive on the porch of Charlie Deraney, a Syrian merchant. I want to also stress that the Syrian community here, by this point, are naturalized citizens, so they do have citizenship at this point. The front side of Charlie's house, or the front side of the house occupied by Charlie Deraney, was badly damaged by an explosion, presumably a stick of dynamite, about 12 o'clock last night. So this is December, so like that 6-month window has closed and they hadn't left. And so part of the porch was torn away and one of the walls wrecked and the windows in several rooms smashed by the explosion. So this ends up happening and causing all of this kind of animosity to come up, and this is really the dynamiting of Charlie Deraney's house on Atlanta Street is what sets forth the movement of the Syrian community out of Marietta. They plan to leave. They said they posted a note saying, "We wish to give the general public notice that we intend to sell all our property of every description that we own in and around Marietta at the earliest possible time, and will leave Marietta ourselves. We hope to be able to dispose of our property within the next 60 days, but if we cannot, we will leave anyway." And it was signed Charlie Deraney, Mike Deraney, and Joe Mansour. Charlie and Mike are brothers, and Joe is married to their sister. And then 8 other Syrian families are here to kind of go with it. So hold on.
It just occurred to me that it's always louder on the back end, and our back was to the cars.
Oh,
so
the truck.
I'm gonna go this way.
Okay, so that was all kind of in late 1922, and this is a story that goes all the way out to California. This is like a national story, talking about the Syrian community in Marietta being one of their houses being dynamited. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Nobody in the family was hurt. Marietta clubs all condemned this bombing, and what ends up happening too is the French embassy actually in Washington, D.C. actually kind of probes this bombing. Syria at that point was under French colonialism, so the French did get involved, and there's a whole story about the French government getting involved in this too. So what ends up happening is the entire community leaves by April. It took them a little bit longer than they had planned because they were having a hard time breaking the lease for the building that they were leasing on the square, which they were actually leasing from Frank Rogers, who was one of our preeminent African-American entrepreneurs and business owners post-Civil War. So they finally are able to break their lease, and they leave by April of 1923. So it says here, members of the firm Deraney Brothers at various times have been warned to leave Marietta, announced Thursday morning that they had completed arrangements for disposing of their storehouse and stock of goods and would with their family leave the first week in April. And so they declined to say where they were planning to locate, but say they expect to turn over their store April 1st. Shocking that they didn't want to tell people where they were going.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Right. Quick question. Tiffany had to step away for a second. Is this who the Mansour Center is named after?
I haven't made the connection yet, but it's possible. The Mansours have a long history within not just the Cobb County, but at the Atlanta area as well, but I haven't made that connection yet. You know, we always find more information after we do these
Absolutely.
too. So that's why
it's the fun thing.
It is the fun thing. So the family moves. They kind of moved to. I did find out where they moved to. I'm not sure which area, if it was the west side or the east side of Atlanta, because it was Flat Shoals Road, and it's probably the east side, is what my husband said. And literally, with like 2 weeks later, they moved to this area in East Atlanta, and their 2.5-year-old falls out of the house and dies.
Aww,
They've been forced out of their community.
that.
They lose a child.
Aww.
I mean, the Deraney's have absolutely
Tragedy.
no luck
Yeah.
on that front. So the families of the Syrian community here in Marietta have all left by April of 1923. What we do know of another family, the Najjars, and that's Najjar, and they actually, I haven't found them here during the same time period, but just a little bit later. They do have a lot of connections in Atlanta during this late teens, early 20s. But we do know that in 1930 they were here, and they had a business on the square, pretty much where the Strand is now.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
over there, kind of give a shout out to that building.
So their building, if you can, we're looking up north up. I'm gonna come down here, Atlanta Street, and you look right there. So there's the Strand building. So that corner there is where the Najjar building or business was. Did they own that building, or was it a different building? What do you know? Was it that building?
No, because that building was built a little bit after the fire.
Okay, that's right, the fire, sorry.
So we'll get to that in just a second. Let me take one step back, though. I do want to apologize and say that the family actually started their business in 1920, and they kind of had businesses all over Cobb County in Metro Atlanta, but they had 19 North Park Square, that was their building, with a stock of men's and women's wearing apparel, novelties, dry goods, and notions. It was a 35 by 80 foot store, and so it was arranged to give the merchandise the greatest, most profitable display possible. And then they secured 20 North Park Square to double their establishment. And so in 1930, a fire pretty much goes through that whole block, right?
Yeah, most of it.
So today, if you're looking at it today, it'd be almost from where Sugar Cakes to the Strand is.
Yeah.
That whole block was pretty much gutted by fire.
Yeah.
So actually,
did we bring a picture of that block?
I did not, but I have an article about it.
Okay, and we do have a picture of that block, I think, early on, so we can post a picture of that too in the comments.
The origin of the fire, this is November 1st, 1930. The origin of the fire, which early Friday morning threatened to destroy the entire business section of Marietta, causing damage estimated at $250,000 to the department stores on North Park Square, have not been determined. I'm sure they found out the reason, hopefully by now, but I don't know. So it went through Najjar's building, which was a dry goods store, Florence's clothing. Oh, actually, it did the whole North block, because it's got Schillings too.
No, Schillings was more in the middle. It wasn't where.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It wasn't at that point on the corner where it ended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fines, Dry Goods, and Dunn's Feed and Grocery Company, but Najjar's and Florence's were the ones that, as they say, the heaviest losers in the fire.
Yeah.
So that whole area, they end up not going back to that section, but they still had business concerns throughout Cobb County. One being Ackworth, another being somewhere in the county. I don't remember where it was, but the Najjars stayed here until pretty much the early 1950s. I read that let's see if I can find that last one. They bought a house over in what is Forest Hills. Is that right?
What?
No.
You asking me?
Yeah, is that the neighborhood?
Over here?
Yeah, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Forest Avenue, and I'm like, is the neighborhood called that too?
Yes.
But see, there's like an advertisement for the store during World War II.
Let me get on my job here. Hold on.
I know, right?
Okay.
So, and then they actually had two sons that were in the service in the Air Corps during World War II as well. So, Najjar bought Dr. Hodges' house in Forest Avenue, so that would be Forest Hills, in 1945, and then the last I saw of them that they left in 1949 and kind of went back to Atlanta. So that's really from 1917 to 1949 is kind of the history of our early Syrian community, with the bulk of that time period really being 1917 to 1923, when the majority of the Syrian families left here.
A runoff.
Runoff. Not by their own choosing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a very brief history. We're still working on more information. We do know a lot of the members of the family were, or that community were probably Catholics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were researching some of the Catholic church information. We do know that there was a Roman Catholic church on Atlanta Street, kind of not far from where Glover Park Brewery is now. Kind of a separate down the road, not very far. And that was established in 1909, and actually it was called St. Joe's. We were
same church, yeah, same
church.
parish. They started in 1909. They started in 1909 in the old Opera House.
Yes.
They took over the Opera House. Again, we're not exactly sure where that was. I'm going to step up a minute.
Yeah.
But then, let's see, 1909 until about 1952, they moved and built their own church up on Church Street, where I'm pretty sure is where the loop now crosses, so it was torn down. And then, of course, now they're over up on Lacey behind the hospital. But the specific Syrian sect of the Roman Catholic Church is Maronite. And there was, I would imagine, not only the Syrians here in Marietta, but kind of all around the Atlanta area. And around, when did they get their own church? Around 1915, I think. 1911. That was their 100-year anniversary of that church. Around 1911, the Atlanta Archdiocese, which is part of the Roman Catholic Church, helped a mission of Maronite Catholics, which it's pretty much, it's the same religion, but it's just a different rite. So they're what's the word I want? I should know. The way that they say Mass is a little bit different. Okay. Gosh, it'll come to me. It's just
it will.
Days.
It will come to her.
Anyways, the traditions that they have during their Mass is a little bit different, and so more like they would have at home, I would imagine, in Syria. So they built their own church, Maronite Church, which is still in Atlanta. It's called St. Joseph's, actually, I think. Down in Atlanta somewhere. Actually, it might be Decatur now. I think they moved to, or Sandy Springs. Yeah, I think they're in Sandy Springs.
She's going all around Atlanta. She'll find it. She'll get it eventually.
This is my brain. It's like a pinball machine, y'all. I'm telling you. Can't keep it all in one place. But anyways, I'll get to the end correctly eventually. But that's a little side history of the Syrians' religion. So when they were here, there's a good chance they were members of St. Joseph's Catholic Church that was here. So, yeah.
All right. So let me swing back around.
Okay.
So really quick, next week, let me put my papers down. Next week, and Amy might pop back on for just a second too. Next week we're going to be kind of doing something different. We're not going to be on location like we are right now because we've got other things planned.
Right, so next Friday, the 19th is Juneteenth, and the Juneteenth Festival that's normally here on the square, put on by the NAACP, has, because of COVID reasons, had to have been canceled. And they are going to have a march in the afternoon, I think around 4. But we are planning on doing, just throughout the day, hosting a series of just a virtual Juneteenth celebration. We're hoping to have some story time for the kids and a few other things, maybe links to podcasts, mostly pre-recorded things that we're going to get together. So that'll be throughout the day on Friday. So instead of coming out here, we're actually going to be in the office doing that.
Exploring what the history of Juneteenth
is.
The
history of Juneteenth, and hopefully a little bit more background on how it relates to our current situation today. So, yeah.
All right, so last but not least, let's let the birthday girl give a wave one more time. Please do your Miss America.
Say goodbye to my youth. Goodbye, youth.
Bye.
It was so lovely.
And we will see you guys live and in person in 2 weeks. And I'm going to go eat some of her cake because I didn't have any of the cake before this. Yeah. So I'm ready to go have some chocolate cake. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.